On June 1st, 1980, a television network launched in Atlanta, Georgia, that most media professionals considered a joke. It was available to fewer than 2 million households. It had no stars, no heritage, no credibility. Critics called it the Chicken Noodle Network. 11 years later, when the Gulf War began, the entire world, including the United States Pentagon, was watching it. His name was Ted Turner, and what he built was CNN, the world's first 24-hour television news network. Robert Edward Turner III was born on November 19, 1938, in Cincinnati, Ohio. His father, Ed, owned a billboard advertising business in Atlanta and was, by most accounts, a difficult man, financially successful, bipolar, physically abusive, and prone to extreme mood swings. He sent young Ted to military boarding school at McAllee in Tennessee. Turner enrolled at Brown University in 1956. He was expelled in 1960, reportedly for having a woman in his dormitory room, before finishing his degree. He joined his father's company and was given the Macon, Georgia branch to manage. He doubled its revenue in his first year. In March 1963, his father, who had made a costly acquisition that pushed the company toward bankruptcy and who was struggling deeply with mental illness, died by suicide. Ted Turner was 24 years old. He threw himself into work to survive his grief. Within months, he had reversed the business's collapse. He would spend the rest of his career proving something to a father who was no longer alive to see it. The press would later call him the Mouth of the South and Captain Outrageous for his brash public pronouncements. He wore both nicknames with considerable pride. Turner rebuilt the billboard business and began to see something others had missed. The television industry was built on scarcity. 3 networks decided what America watched and when. But cable was coming. Satellites were coming. The infrastructure for a completely different kind of television was being constructed. In 1970, Turner purchased a struggling UHF television station in Atlanta for a bargain price. Within 3 years, he made it profitable, filling it with old movies, reruns, cartoons, and Atlanta Braves games. Then, in 1976, he made the move that changed everything. Turner's company became one of the first broadcasters to use a communications satellite to transmit its signal to cable operators anywhere in America. His Atlanta station, which he renamed WTBS, was suddenly available nationwide. He had invented the superstation. That same year, he bought the Atlanta Braves. The following year, the Atlanta Hawks. He understood that owning the content, not just the channel, was the real advantage. By the late 1970s, Turner had the platform. Now he needed the idea. The idea was this: what if the news never stopped? Before CNN, American television news meant 30 minutes every evening on ABC, CBS, or NBC. If something happened at 2 in the afternoon, you waited until 6:30 to hear about it. Turner saw this as an absurdity. The world doesn't stop for a broadcast schedule. Why should the news? CNN launched on June 1st, 1980, from Atlanta. The first story was the attempted assassination of civil rights leader Vernon Jordan. Anchors Dave Walker and Lois Hart co-anchored the inaugural broadcast. Turner had commissioned a recording of "Nearer, My God, to Thee," to be played only at the end of the world, as his stated final broadcast. He was only half joking. Critics laughed. CNN lost money for years. Turner kept investing, building news bureaus around the world, hiring journalists, improving the satellite infrastructure. In 1983, ABC backed a competitor called the Satellite News Channel. Turner bought it and shut it down. He was building something that had never existed. He was willing to bleed for it. The moment CNN proved itself to the world came on January 17, 1991. U.S. and coalition forces launched the first airstrikes on Baghdad. CNN reporters Bernard Shaw, John Holloman, and Peter Arnett were hiding under their hotel room desks with a telephone line out of the country. They broadcast live, the only outlet on Earth able to do so. CNN scooped the U.S. military's official announcement by 27 minutes. ABC, CBS, and NBC, the three networks that had laughed at the Chicken Noodle Network, were broadcasting CNN's audio on their own air, with the CNN logo visible on their own screens. General Colin Powell, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, acknowledged in his first two briefings that the Pentagon was watching CNN for updates on its own war. The term CNN effect was coined, describing how real-time television coverage had begun to influence not just public opinion, but actual foreign policy and military decisions. Governments, generals, and diplomats now had to operate in a world where the camera never blinked. Time magazine named Turner its Man of the Year for 1991. By the mid-1990s, Turner had built an empire beyond CNN. TNT launched in 1988, built on the MGM film library he had acquired for $1.5 billion in 1986. More than 4,000 classic films. The Cartoon Network launched in 1992. Turner Classic Movies in 1994. CNN International had been broadcasting globally since 1985, reaching Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. In 1996, Turner merged Turner Broadcasting with Time Warner for $7.5 billion. The era of the independent Turner empire was over. He stayed on to run the cable networks, but the decisive, outsized phase of his building was done. Then he turned to giving. In September 1997, Turner pledged $1 billion to the United Nations Foundation, the largest single philanthropic pledge in history at that moment. He paid it out over 10 years and made his final payment in 2015. He became one of the largest private landowners in the United States, over 2 million acres across 8 states, and rebuilt the American bison herd on his ranches, now 45,000 animals strong. Harold Evans placed Ted Turner in They Made America because Turner did something that defines the great democratizers. He broke a gate that a small group of institutions controlled. Before CNN, 3 networks decided what news was, when it aired, and how it was framed. After CNN, news was continuous, global, and no longer filtered through a single editorial schedule. When the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, when Tiananmen Square happened, when the Gulf War began, people in Tokyo and London and Lagos and New York were watching the same images at the same moment. The planet had never had that shared, simultaneous view of itself before. And every 24-hour news network that followed, Fox News, MSNBC, BBC World, Al Jazeera, Sky News, was built on the architecture, the format, and the audience expectation that Turner created. He didn't build a network, he built an industry. What did that industry actually give the world? 4 things that are now permanent. First, the 24-hour news cycle itself. Every news organization on Earth, websites, apps, rolling broadcasts, now operates on continuous time. Turner decided that. Second, the cable television industry as we know it. WTBS proved the superstation model, which directly inspired ESPN, MTV, BET, the Discovery Channel, and dozens of others. Turner validated an entire medium. Third, real-time global accountability. The CNN effect permanently changed how power operates. Leaders can no longer ignore crises while cameras are rolling. That accountability, for better and worse, traces directly to Turner. Fourth, the philanthropist billionaire model. Turner's $1 billion UN pledge in 1997 directly challenged other billionaires to do the same. It helped shift the culture of extreme wealth toward obligation. Andrew Carnegie had written The Gospel of Wealth. Turner lived it. 3 lessons from Ted Turner's story. First, see the infrastructure before the market does. Turner used satellite technology in 1976 and launched CNN in 1980, both before the industry understood what cable could become. The biggest opportunities lie in seeing where the pipes are being laid, not where the traffic currently flows. Second, Disruption is always mocked until it wins. Chicken Noodle Network. The experts thought 24-hour news was a joke. Turner kept going. The Gulf War ended the argument. Ridicule from established players is often a sign you are building something genuinely new, not a sign you are wrong. Third, adversity can be the making of you. Turner's father was abusive and died by suicide, leaving a bankrupt company. Turner reversed the collapse at 24 and built an empire. The drive, the stubbornness, the refusal to accept failure, all forged in the hardest years of his life. He said the news would never stop. He was right. Thank you for joining us for episode 17. Our next episode is Herbert Boyer and Robert Swanson, the scientist and the venture capitalist who invented the biotech industry and proved that life itself could be engineered. Until then, stay curious.